Welcome to another edition of the Rigby Campfire podcast, or should we call it bodcast?
Well, this one's a podcast.
So I am honoured to be sitting here with none other than Craig Boddington, who I've had the pleasure of stalking with for Roebucks in the south of England at the beginning of the 250th anniversary week for Rigby. So Craig, welcome.
Well, thank you. And Simon, you know, we've hunted together a lot over the years. It's great to be here. And, you know, Roebuck are the deer of spring, and it's a glorious springtime here in England, but that's the time for Roebuck. They're in hard antler, and the bucks are actually starting to go into the rut. They're not yet, but they will be in a month.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a weird time. It's completely opposite our deer season.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, but it works. This is the time for Roebuck.
Well, you'd be out for turkeys, I guess, right now.
Well, our turkey season's almost done, really,
Right.
but yeah. So in America, we hunt turkeys in the spring. In Europe, they hunt roebuck in the spring. And I like them both, but given a choice, it's nice to be in southern England. But to be here for the 250th celebration of one of the world's most prestigious names in firearms and in cartridges, this is an amazing event for me.
Yeah, well, we're very honoured that you and Donna could come over, Craig, and join and celebrate with us this week.
Well, I'm the one that's honoured. It's not a big guest list.
And because it was you, we had to put a bit of hunting in at the beginning of the trip. So we've been out hunting for roebucks. You've got a few, which has been fantastic. And we've been using the Highland Stalker. What are your thoughts?
Well, I wrote about the Highland Stalker when it was brand new, and this was really the first new gun when Rigby came back home, back to England where it should be, and it's a beautiful rifle. It's priced very appropriately.
Yeah.
It's not an inexpensive gun, but it's not a full-up custom. It's a semi-production.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful gun that you got a lot of thought into. It's got a square bridge Mauser action, and in traditional calibers that we were shooting a 275 Rigby, which
you keep trying to call it a 7x57.
well, some people would call it a 7x57, but we were shooting it in 275 Rigby.
Yeah.
And I know that because the Hornady ammunition Rigby boxed Hornady cases, they actually said 275 Rigby.
They did. But
so it was
actually,
official.
As a complete firearms and caliber buff as you are, the 7x57 and the 275 Rigby are one and the same cartridge.
They are. It's one of the only cartridges in the whole world, rifle cart, that actually has two official names. And nobody really knows exactly why that was done, but in the late 1890s, John Rigby, the John Rigby, had an exclusive arrangement with Peter Paul Mauser, and they were very close together. And the Boer War had just ended, and Great Britain had faced 7x57s in South Africa. And by the way, America had just faced 7x57s in the Spanish-American War in Cuba. And so some Anglos and some Americans had a little bit of a bad feeling about the 7x57. So a horse by another name is still a horse.
Quite right. And I guess giving it a denomination of Rigby, and Rigby was known only for sporting firearms at the time. So that was a sort of marketing ploy back then in the days before all of the marketing tools that we have now. Giving the cartridge Rigby's name was going to give it a head start, I guess, when you put it into the sporting context rather than it being used in a military rifle. And I guess it was designed in Germany, and they were using metric, and the UK was using an imperial system. So.
And Peter Paul Mauser made a lot of cartridges off that 57mm case. 6.5x55 Swede is 8x57, the German Mauser rifle, and there were many others off that same case. But in 1898. It was based on 175 grain in metric in English, or 173 grain solid bullet, a big long round nose bullet that was very slow.
Yeah.
And so Rigby did do something different. He changed it to he offered a load for the first time, and they also loaded the 175 grain solids, of course, but he changed it to a really fast 140 grain load that changed the utility, changed the versatility, and changed the trajectory. And so that was part of the deal with the name change, was a brand new fast load.
Yeah, and we've had some very famous hunters in history that have used the 275 Rigby, Bell and Corbett come immediately to mind for champions of the caliber, and they've been, or the cartridge rather, and they've been much written about, much storied over the years, and I think they've been we've been able to lean back into their legacy to help us with.
Well, and you should, and that really starts my association with Rigby. I discovered Bell and Corbett in the grade school library.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of hunting books in school libraries in America today, but in those days, the first books I discovered were Jim Corbett writing about cleaning up the man-eating tigers, and Walter Bell, Karamoja Bell, talking about hunting elephants in Africa, and they were both, not all the Victorian storytellers were great storytellers, but they were both great writers and great storytellers, and left legacies of wonderful books, and those books were full of their exploits with Rigby rifles.
Yeah, and they write very honest accounts of the actions. There's no bravado.
Oh, no chest beating.
No showing off. It's just matter-of-fact accounts of what went on. And when you think about shooting a tiger with really a deer caliber,
sure,
it's quite remarkable to have that bravery and to just get that job done. None of the modern optics technology that we've got today, and there's very famous piece where Corbett uses a very early flashlight on the man-eating leopard of Rigby Cartridges,
right,
which was actually, and we talked about this when Mark and I had the great fortune to be able to take Corbett's rifle back to Rudraprayag, to the very spot where he shot, and we actually saw the mango tree that you'd like to hope. My heart was hoping that it was the very tree, and there was some wire wrapped around it at the height that a Mashan would be. And
my goodness!
We kind of really hoped that would have been, put there by Corbett so many years ago. And there's a monument to him, and there was a big kind of celebration. I think we'll probably cover the India trip in some more detail on another podcast. We haven't done it yet, and I think it's something that was one of the highlights of my life to be able.
Oh, 100%. Then you asked me to go on that trip, and I just couldn't go at the time, but it was fantastic. And of course, Bell took a step back, and he used the 175 grain solid.
Yeah.
The German version was 173 grains. The British version was 175. But that's what he used, and he used it for many of his elephants. And now, every time you say something about Bell, I get about 10 letters from people say, Walter Bell shot every one of his 1,011 elephants with his 275 Rigby. Yeah. That is not true.
The Mannlicher, there was.
Yeah, he used others. He used a 318, and because of ammo availability, I'm betting he shot a lot of elephants with a 303 British.
Yeah.
But his favorite was his 275 Rigby, and he wrote. Now, of course, he was shooting solids.
Yep.
And he was apparently not an athlete and a marksman.
Yep.
And hunting in a different time.
Yep.
But he wrote that the barrel of his 275 Rigby was never polluted by the passage of a soft-nosed bullet.
Brilliant.
He was a specialist. but
he knew how to get it done.
We talk about Walter Bell and his 275 Rigby. But my gosh, he bought over a half a dozen of them for Rigby over the years.
He had a number on order, and we can see them in.
And he bought them in pairs.
Yeah, we can see them in the sales ledgers.
Sure, I've seen it.
It's wonderful to still have that history and legacy sitting in the headquarters in London. So tell me a bit about the Roebuck Hunt. How did the 275 cartridge and the Highland Stalker work out for you? What was your kind of impression? You've hunted with it before. Which species? Was it a Sitka whitetail?
Yeah, I hunted whitetail on my farm with it when it was brand new, and it's just a beautiful rifle. It's a traditional Mauser action, control round feed, just a traditional Mauser 98 action, obviously of new manufacture.
Yeah. Modern materials.
Yeah, modern materials. It's a beautiful action, a beautiful rifle. You've stocked it very, very well. You changed the stock dimension a little bit from, let's say, an 1890s gun, because you raise the comb just a little bit so that it's comfortable with the scope.
Yep.
You're not going to want to mount a great big scope that you have to mount 3 feet off the action on it. But if you use the kind of scope that's appropriate for the trajectory of a 275 Rigby, it's not a long range cartridge. but it's a good solid 300-yard cartridge.
Yeah, the leaf sights that Bell had, I think, were out to 500
Sure.
yards. So.
Well, he must have better eyes than me.
Yeah.
But and you still have the traditional folding leaf sights on the Highland Stalker.
You can take the scope off. It has a quick mount.
It has an in-between stock so that you can use it with iron sights, but you can also use it with a scope. It's high enough as long as you mount the scope nice and low where it should be.
Yep. Well, I had a great experience. I went to Karamoja when the Highland Stalker had recently launched, maybe a couple of years prior, and Mark and the team at Rigby decided they would do the Bell edition. So it was literally based on Bell's exact order.
Oh my!
His specifications, his sight specifications. So he had a sight. It wasn't just a V-notch at the back. It was a kind of indentation. It has a slightly different configuration on the rear sight, and I thought, why don't I go to Karamoja and do a Bell Safari with the 275, notwithstanding there are no elephants there anymore.
Oh, that's right. You used iron sights, didn't you?
I did iron sights for the whole
Good
hunt.
for you.
And I think a hunt that would have taken me with a conventional scope perhaps 3 or 4 days, it took me 2 weeks to get 4 different species shot, and it was fantastic. It was so good. It gave me because initially we went to the range and I obviously shot it in the UK prior to going, and I wanted to make sure that I was there or thereabouts once I'd landed in Africa. So classic cardboard box with a black dot in the middle of it, and we kept stepping out to see how far back. Obviously you can only take 5 kilos of ammo, so I couldn't play too hard.
Not too much, no.
But I was able to accurately get the black dot on the box that had been drawn on there at 100 yards. So it was, smaller than the vitals, but it was a size that I was comfortable that there was a margin of error on vitals.
Your eyes are also better than mine then, if you can do that.
It was very interesting. I shot a Jackson's hartebeest, I think at 120. It was the first animal that I shot, and the first one I took quite a long time to get to shoot because I was wanting to make sure that I was really right, that I was comfortable on sticks. Probably Bell wouldn't have been using sticks, but that was an aid that I felt that was appropriate for my own comfort and ethical kind of standpoint and wanting to get the job done properly. But we 2 or 3 encounters where we couldn't get quite close enough, and finally I got close enough. And once you get the bead onto an animal at that distance, it covers a lot of the animal. You can't, You can't be as accurate as you'd think with irons once you go out beyond what the bead would naturally cover.
Past 100, of course, the hartebeest is a big animal, but once you get out there, the bead actually covers not only the animal, but about 4 acres of real estate around the animal.
Yeah, so you have to kind of see through it. You have to see through the bead, and it was quite anyway. It was amazing, and I have huge admiration for Bell and for Corbett for both shooting.
It's a wonderful experience, and although my eyes were having some issues with iron sights, but the last 10 years I've gone back to iron sights as well a lot, for the extra challenge and for the fun and for the nostalgia, and it's very interesting. It changes the game.
It does change the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 100 yards, it's just beginning.
Yeah.
Rather than 100 yards, it's kind of done deal. You need to put a lot together. So I think it's really, really good fun. So you managed to impress me as you always have done with your shooting, Craig. And I'll have to tell everybody, as a left-handed shooter, you've shot right-handed rifles most of your life because lots of...
That's all there was.
And I've never seen anybody operate a bolt, even with the right hand, quite like you do. The speed in which you can do it, Craig, is amazing. So yeah, it's quite something. It's almost bionic.
Well, it's you're basically reaching over the top.
Yeah.
Now with if you're on a very, very steady position, you can cheat. A lefty can actually keep this hand in position and work it with your right hand.
Right.
But you have to be in a perfectly steady position. Most of the time, I reach over the top.
Yeah. Well, I've witnessed that again, and also witnessed some excellent shooting. And it's lovely. What a lovely time of the year to be in the UK. Absolutely.
Oh, beautiful. And that was a beautiful rifle. It's got just really excellent wood, and it feels good. And of course, I keep harping on this, but if it just had a left-hand bolt, it would be
working
perfect.
on it.
I know that.
Working on it.
I know that, and we'll get there someday.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been an absolute joy to hunt with you again, Craig. And I hope this isn't the last time that we get.
It won't be. It won't be. And the 250, the 275 Rigby is just such a versatile cartridge. It's one of those funny cartridges, like our 257 Roberts and perhaps a little like the 270 Winchester, which it's quite similar to, really.
And popular in the UK.
It takes down game far beyond what its paper ballistics suggest it should do. Now, I mean, the Roebuck is a small animal.
Yeah.
A 275 Rigby is a big gun on Roebuck.
Yeah.
But I've used it a lot on whitetail, and I've used it on a lot of African game, up to kudu and a little bit beyond, kudu and zebra. And it's incredibly effective. It just does the job.
Yeah.
And unlike this, it's very similar to our 7mm 08, which is also popular and favorite. It's what my daughters use. I use a 7x57 or 275 Rigby, and I have rifles that are roll marked both ways. So I love the cartridge and have tremendous confidence in it. But unlike the 708, you can go up in bullet weight. So depending on what you're hunting, you can shoot a 140 grain bullet at around about 2,800 feet per second, which is quite flat shooting. Or you can take all the way up to 175 grain bullet, and you can go down to, it's down to about 2450, 20, but that's relatively fast for that weight of bullet out of such a very tidy case that doesn't make much noise and kicks so little.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a nicer experience hunting roe deer. It's not the hardest hunt in the world, but there's sort of beauty about it. You're up early in the morning watching the sun come up. You're hunting in the springtime, which is unusual. Normally it's, gnarly weather in the fall, but this is something very special about doing it with a beautifully wooden stock rifle.
Oh, it's lovely. It's wonderful fun, and we were shooting off sticks, and the shots weren't difficult. And of course, now I'm a whitetail hunter, and I know my whitetails, but to me, the European Roebuck is so different that everyone looks beautiful to me.
Yeah. And it's amazing when we get up close to them. We talked about this morning when you shot one that we would call a malform, and typically the classic Roebuck has a 6-pointer. It will have a main beam, and then it's got a tine at the front and a tine at the back. But the amount of differences and variation in such a small antler. I think the first American friend I had come over, I pointed, I think it was a medal class Roebuck, and he thought it was a fawn. He couldn't believe that a mature male could have such a small antler. And then when he shot it, he was amazed at the you can see the age on the antler, or the animal is old and the coronets are big and pearling on it.
We call it the base, you call it the coronet, and they can be, my goodness, they can be that big.
Yeah, like a candle that's dripped wax down onto a base.
I mean, and for some reason, as they rub their antler, they grow a lot of little knobby growth at the bases and on up that you call pearling. And it's beautiful. They're absolutely magnificent.
On whitetail as well. I've shot quite a few whitetail.
Yeah, they have it as well.
But not quite as pronounced.
No, for the size of deer, I mean, the pearling and really the base, the size of the coronet is totally outsized to the total size of the antler.
Absolutely. And it's a very good indicator of age.
Yes.
And the angle that it slopes on the head as well. So.
And this one we got this morning actually had a third antler.
It had a third antler, and it had one kind of classic looking 3-point, and then the other side, all sorts of things were going on.
Oh, it was all kind of weird stuff going on there.
But what a beautiful head.
Oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful Roebuck.
The best of 4, I think. That was definitely my favorite that you
100%.
managed to bowl over. It was it was amazing. So tell me, you've hunted extensively, Weatherby Award winning, you've hunted all over the world for so many different species. Tell me about how Rigby cartridges, the proprietary cartridges, have sort of featured within your hunting career. There are kind of 4 main Rigby cartridges, and I'd be interested to know where they featured for you, at what points, and have you had them for a favourite and then moved on, or has there been a moment where a Rigby cartridge is something that you wouldn't leave the house without? Has there been a sort of Rigby narrative through your hunting career?
It's funny. There really has been. There really has been. I mean, the 7x57 was not, or 275 Rigby, excuse me, was not an early favorite, but in the late in the 80s, when I was living in Los Angeles, I had a buddy who had a great ranch up in Northern California that was overrun with feral hogs, and so that was where I would go from LA. It was quite a drive up there, but and one of my mentors, a guy named Mike Ballou, he was after he left there, he was longtime director of the NRA Whittington Center. so he's well known in the industry. But I'd go up there 3 or 4 times a year. But Mike would guide a lot of the pig hunters, and so he was taking 700 or 800 pigs a year off the place just to keep them where they should be. And Mike's a guy that hates recoil, unabashedly hates recoil. So for his small-bodied black-tailed deer that they have up there, he's a 25 caliber guy. He'd shoot a 257 Roberts, never as big as a 25-06, but he loved the 257 Roberts, and he had a 25 Ackley improved Wildcat and this and that. But when he was guiding pig hunters, he would carry a big gun, and he'd get several charges a year, and nobody ever got hurt. But when he was guiding pig hunters, he would always carry a big gun, and his idea of a big gun was a 275 Rigby. Okay, and because of him, I wound up with one, and I have 3 now, and that's been my favorite. One of my favorite cartridges ever since. Again, it's not a long-range cartridge. I don't use it for everything, but I've always loved it and still do. And it's just a cartridge that does so much with so little fuss. No recoil, mild report. It's just wonderful. And then in the 80s, people were starting to get re-energized with the 416. Now the John Rigby's 416 came out in 1911, and it was a very, very famous cartridge, of course, but at that time, Rigby rifles were essentially bespoke, meaning they were custom. And so, although as famous as the 416 Rigby became, there weren't really that many made before the end of World War II.
The original big game rifles are very scarce.
Yeah, they're very scarce. They're I can't remember the number. You would know it perhaps, but
I believe it to be around 100. I mean, it's
there
very
was
small number.
a few hundred.
Yeah,
and there were some custom guns made in America, but the 416 Rigby was famous. It's a 400 grain bullet at 2,400 feet per second, very fast for the day, and still fast for that heavy a bullet and that big a gun. And it actually 100% out-penetrates the big bores. You don't have the frontal area of a 450 or a 470 or a 500 for the knock, for the punch, but it will out-penetrate all day long because it has much higher velocity, and the smaller diameter bullet meets less resistance. So the 416 Rigby was a cartridge that was too good to die. And it was in trouble in the 1960s when Kynoch quit making all the big bore cartridges. And Rigby managed to keep the ammo going. They had special runs made in Europe, and they were able to feed the market. But the 416 Rigby was kind of a rare bird when I was young. Everyone's forgotten that Jack O'Connor had one. And O'Connor made his 416 brass by taking the very similar 460 Weatherby case and turning off the belts, because the 416 Rigby was really one of the first unbelted magnums. It's very straight case.
After Peter Paul Mauser and John Rigby developed the Magnum Mauser action together, it was only possible to develop the 416 off the back of it.
And Mauser and John Rigby developed those together, both the action and the cartridge. So it was a very famous cartridge, famous beyond its actual use, although a lot of really famous guys used the 416 Rigby. Again, Jack O'Connor had one on our side, but it was used by a lot of really famous hunters here. Harry Selby had a 416 that he used forever, and a lot of the ivory hunters used it. Jimmy Sutherland used it, and just the list goes on of people that had 416s. But in the 1980s, it was starting to gain traction in the U.S. again. And because of the shortage of brass for the big Rigby case and the shortage of fresh ammo, we were using Wildcat cartridges. So I had a 416 Taylor, and then I had a 416 Hoffman. And all they did was duplicate 416 Rigby velocity in smaller case. So I actually shot my first elephant with a 416, clear back in 1985. And then after that, smaller manufacturers, A Square and Bell Brass Extrusion Laboratory Limited, they started making new Boxer Prime cases in the States, and 416 Rigby started to become available. So I had my first 416 Rigby in 1988, and it was a Dumoulin. I took it to Tanzania in '88, and I shot a lion with it, and shot buffalo with it, and wonderfully effective cartridge. And then in that year, Federal created the first mass-produced 416 Rigby cartridge the world has ever seen. And that was 1989. And Federal has made brand new, fresh 416 Rigby ammo ever since.
Yep.
Well, that opened the floodgates.
Yep.
And it opened the floodgates wonderfully. Hornady makes them now, and Norma makes them. And so you have sources both on the continent and the United States of good, fresh 416 Rigby ammo, and it's good ammo with good bullets. And so I had a 416 Rigby by Rigby a few years later. Beautiful gun, new gun. That one did have a left-hand bolt. Yeah. So I shot buffalo and elephant with it in about '92. Used it quite a bit, and I should have kept that gun, but I did not. Somebody wanted it so much more than I did. And you know how these things are when you're trading around. But that's one I regret letting go. And I'll have another one someday.
Yeah. Well, if you want to go to the London Best range, Craig, you can get one today. Rigby does make left-handed action.
I know they do. But
fully custom London Best.
But do you have any concept of how expensive lawyers are?
I do.
But I'll have another one because I think the 416 Rigby is the ultimate choice. And after you did the Highland Stalker, your next move was the big game rifle.
Well, actually, it came the other way around. So
the big game came first?
The relaunch of Rigby came with the big game rifle.
I'm sorry.
11 years ago, and then I think 8 years ago came the Highland Stalker.
Okay.
So it was that way round.
Well, I took one of the first big game. It did have a right-hand bolt, which I do know how to use. I took it to Mozambique, and I think I shot 3 buffalo with that gun. And that was an iron-sighted gun.
Yeah, I remember the story.
Yeah, that was an iron-sighted gun.
Single square bridge or the double square bridge?
It was a single square bridge. That one was a single square bridge.
Slightly shorter barrel.
It was not. It was not set up for scope use.
Yeah.
And it had the typical iron sights, but this was far enough back that I could still see iron sights fairly well.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful time with it. Now, one buffalo, we were trying to get on a bull in a herd. And herds are tough. With iron sights, herds are tough, and we just couldn't get close enough. And the sun was kind of going down, not directly behind to make it difficult, but enough so that you had the backlight. And I was on sticks. It was beautiful buffalo, and I was on sticks, and we were about 120, 130 yards. Long shot on buffalo.
Long shot.
Long shot with iron sights, but. We just, in those open swamps, that's not open sight country. Those Mozambique swamps are scope country. And we just couldn't get close enough. And so I was on sticks, and the light was so good it felt comfortable. But I remember getting on the gun and going up to the sky about 3 times to make sure that I absolutely had that bead settled in the V-notch. And the gun shot very, very well. It was just a matter of that was pushing it for iron sights, but I actually did have it right, and I got down on him. It was beautiful buffalo. Right. We got him down very nicely.
I remember the story.
Yeah.
Seeing pictures of it.
It was lovely. And then a couple years later, I was able to take a big game rifle with a scope. And at that time, especially, my eyes were getting to where I needed a scope. And the 416 Rigby is really best and most versatile with a scope.
Yeah.
It shoots almost as flat as a 375. So it's not as versatile as a 375 on the bottom end, but it's so much more versatile on the big stuff.
Yeah.
And you can shoot plains game with it all day long if you wish.
I've shot an Impala with one. So
yeah, why not?
Yeah. I mean,
why not?
Got the job done.
No, and actually I shot my last elephant with that rifle.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Do you still have it in your gun safe?
No, that was a loaner,
loaner?
Right-handed bolt, Simon. Come on, We don't buy right-hand bolt guns. But
so you've got a very long and storied history with the 416 and the 275. What about the 350?
Well, I had that gun briefly. Paul Roberts, who was the proprietor of Rigby for many years here in England, he built me one. It was on a left-hand Remington action. We probably don't want to talk about that a lot, but no, it was what it was. It was an original barrel.
Classic Paul Roberts.
It was, yes, exactly. It was, and I knew all this. Yeah. I knew all this, so it was the 350 Rigby is an unsung hero. It was John Rigby's first rimless cartridge, either 1906 or 1908. So several years before the 416 Rigby in 1911, and but if you look at John Rigby's cartridges, the 350 Rigby and then the 416, they are as modern as tomorrow. A very, very straight case with little taper, relatively sharp shoulder, a nice long neck to grip the bullet. It just had everything, plenty of case capacity, and it was in your lexicon a Magnum is properly a cartridge that is of the same bullet diameter as a cartridge that the same company is already making.
Right.
And so at the time, a very standard chambering in double rifles and single shots was the 400 350. And so the 350 Rigby Rimless Magnum, which was the real name, was a rimless cartridge designed for bolt actions, one of the first British cartridges designed for bolt actions, designed to be used in the Mauser action.
Yep.
And at that moment, John Rigby had an exclusive arrangement with his buddy Peter Paul Mauser.
Yeah, for international export
yes,
Mauser actions.
Absolutely, he had it. And so he created the 350 Rigby Rimless Magnum to go with that. Mm-hmm. And you know, although with solids, it was used clear up to elephant, it was really a cartridge for large plains game.
Yep.
And for lion, perfect,
yep.
of course,
yep.
for that. And it was used for buffalo and a little for elephant, but it was a little faster and certainly more case capacity than the 35 Whelen, but you would call it on the order of the 35 Whelen.
Yep.
Shooting a 358 .358 inch bullet. I don't remember the velocity, but it was similar to the 35 Whelen, and I loved it. I took it to Tanzania one year, but you know, with a Rigby on a Remington action, it was just a little too weird for me, and I bought that gun and waited a long time for Paul to build it, but I should have kept it, but it was just a little too weird. But it was very effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a wonderful cartridge. I'd like to see that one come back.
Well, Rigby produces the 350 now.
Right.
You know, and we'd love its popularity to grow. However, none of the major ammunition manufacturers are loading it. So that always stifles, as you mentioned with the 416 earlier, it stifles the widespread use of it because
of course.
Of the availability of the ammunition. It makes it difficult.
Yeah, you need ammo for a cartridge to really fly.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's one other cartridge which the most recent Rigby cartridge, the 450.
Yes.
I understand Paul Roberts developed that cartridge.
That was Paul Roberts' cartridge, there are similarities to other cartridges that are out there. It's has more case capacity and is a little faster than the 458 lot. It's very similar to the 450 Dakota, which was also another proprietary with very limited ammo availability. But the 450 Dakota had some traction, and of course this goes back to the 1950s when Winchester brought out the 458 Winchester Magnum. And I don't think they had inside info, but their timing was so perfect because that was the time when the British supplier Kynoch was scaling back and started discontinuing first all the big bore cartridges, and then in the early 60s they quit making sporting ammunition altogether for centerfire. Yeah. And so the 458 Winchester Magnum came into this arena, and because it was inexpensive American rifles, cheap Winchester ammo, it really became the standard in Africa because the double rifles were languishing for lack of ammunition, and likewise a lot of the great British bolt guns. So the 458 became popular, but it always had a problem. It was a 2.5-inch case, and it really didn't have, especially with the powders then, it didn't have the case capacity it needed to really perform as it was supposed to. It was never quite as fast as it was advertised to be. And so over the years, there's been so many solutions as to how to get a little more out of it. They lengthened it with a little shoulder to a Wildcat called the 450 Watts. Jack O'Connor had one of those, took his one and only elephant with it. Then Jack Lott took the 458 case and just lengthened it using the full length 375 case. So those are both belted cartridges, and the 458 Lott had a lot of traction. But you have this great, big, beautiful John Rigby 416 case, and I think others had probably done similar. And all the 416 Rigby cases, Weatherby took the 416 Rigby case and simply added a belt to it. That's the only difference. So the 460 Weatherby Magnum, 378 Weatherby Magnum, 370, that whole family is based on the John Rigby case with the belt added. Well, Paul Roberts took the opposite approach, and it was, I want to say, about 1992. He took the opposite approach and simply removed the belt. Now he's back and he's got the 416 Rigby case ripe for necking up to 45 caliber. And that's what the 450 Rigby rimless Magnum is.
It's a 416 case, but with a 458.
Yeah, it's a 416 case blown out, and it'll propel the 500 grain bullet at well over 2,400 feet per second.
Yeah, and
everything you need to do.
Everything you need to, and we have some real specialist customers that, particularly professionals, that really need penetration, and they say nothing compares. They are always the stories of extreme penetration on their
oh my goodness
species. So
in one and out the other.
Up to and including the largest, and it's something quite remarkable. Obviously, the choice of projectile has a huge part to play in that as well. But we've heard some remarkable stories about the 450.
Essentially, end to end on elephant, and it should exit the skull from almost any angle, frontal brain, side brain.
Yep.
It shouldn't matter. You get a 500 grain bullet at about 2,400 or 2,450, and it'll go through there. And I was fortunate. I went to Tanzania with Paul Roberts and Patty Pugh, and they're both still involved with Rigby.
Mark affectionately calls them his Rigby parents.
Oh, absolutely, and they are.
Seeing both of them on Friday.
I know that. I can't wait to see them. And so we went to Tanzania together in, I want to say 92. And so we had the first 450 Rigby rimless Magnums.
Brilliant.
And it was so much fun, and it's a big gun.
Yep.
It's a big gun, and Patty Pugh, who's about this big around and about my height, I think she took the first buffalo with the 450 Rigby. Yeah, I think she did the honors on that one. And in those days, you could have...
I think the gun was probably more scared of her than she the gun.
Well, the gun probably weighed more than she did, but she took a buffalo with it very cleanly, and in those days in Tanzania, you had 3 buffalo on license. So I believe between Paul and Patty and myself, I think we took 9 buffalo in 10 days with those guns.
Brilliant.
Oh, it was wonderful, and the first one that I shot was absolutely fantastic. We were sitting on an Antip, and although I used the 458 Lott a little bit, and I've used big doubles a lot, I've done most of my buffalo shooting with 375s and 416s, most of it over the years.
Do you think the additional, because you have a magazine with more cartridges ready to deploy, what is it that would draw you to a double versus a magazine rifle? Is it knowing the terrain, if you're going to be up close and personal in thick jess versus in Mozambique, you're going to pick the right tool for the job?
It's more a question of terrain. You know, I mean, I'm not Karamoja Bell. I'm not wading into an elephant herd wondering if I can get them all. You know, we're even, and buffalo too, we're going one at a time, you know, so the fact that you have 4 or 5 shells in the magazine is relatively insignificant, but it's awkward to scope a double rifle. The modern guns you can scope, but they look weird.
Awful.
They look weird.
Yeah.
And so I love to use a double, but you have to be, and I do love, especially on elephant, I absolutely love the 1-2 punch. I love that instant availability of the second barrel, because with elephant you're going to be very, very close. Buffalo's another story. You can't always get close, and always and forever you'll shoot more buffalo and bigger buffalo with a scoped rifle than you will with an open-sighted gun. You just have to give up too many shots. So on that first buffalo with the 450, we were actually, we saw the dust of a herd. In the slough at that time, there's so many buffalo, we didn't do much tracking. You would actually see the dust of a herd and you'd know there was buffalo moving and make a stalk. And we climbed up onto an ant heap, and the buffalo had actually, we got in front of them, but they turned and they came by literally 10, 15, 20 yards away. And finally there was as the herd passed, the bulls are often in the rear of a herd, and there was a beautiful bull trailing the herd, and he was clear. And man, with a gun like that, you better not have another buffalo behind a buffalo. You had a big problem. But anyway, he was clear, and he was passing, and I shot him. And at that moment, of course, I'm in recoil, and I didn't really see the impact, but I felt good about the shot. And I'd no sooner worked the bolt than I looked over and he was lying dead 10 yards in front of where he'd been. I said, ooh, this is business. This is business. But I've used the 416 Rigby a lot in Mozambique, where it is open and where you're better off with a scope.
Yep.
You can do it with iron sights, but you're better off with a scope.
Just gives you more options.
And, you know, I mean, once in a while on buffalo, you just can't get as close as you want to get.
Yeah.
And it's not always possible. And then you have to make up your mind, well, we going to come back another day, or we just let them settle and try to get closer, or can you take the shot? And with a scoped 416, nobody would take a long shot on a buffalo.
Yeah.
I've never shot at a buffalo at 200 yards. You certainly could with a 416 Rigby, but
It kind of defeats the object of going and trying to hunt them.
Well, the fun is getting close.
Absolutely.
Getting close, but
it's not a sniping exercise.
You can't always, and so we had a herd in front of us at about 150 yards, which is a long shot on buffalo. It's a very long shot, and I was on sticks and waiting, and the bull was trailing, and so that's the longest shot I've ever made on a buffalo, was with a 416 Rigby.
Tell me, you've shot over 100 now.
I have, yeah.
So you've got some experience.
Well, he was 160 yards, and that is the longest shot I've ever attempted or made on a buffalo. And on sticks, well, it was a big herd, and although he was at the end, obviously he went forward at the shot to trail the herd, but it was in a dry little pan, and just dust billowed up. We lost sight of the entire herd instantly. There were 60, 70 buffalo in front of us, and now there's nothing but a big cloud of red dust. And oh boy, now what are we gonna do? And so we had nothing to do but wait.
Yeah.
And so we waited a couple of minutes, and when the dust settled, there was one buffalo, and he was stone dead right where the dust was settling. And that's what a 416 Rigby will do for you.
Yeah, it gives you confidence, I think. I've shot 3 buffalo with the 416, and yeah, I've had good experiences each time. It's been a joy to be out in Africa hunting with such a storied caliber.
Oh, it is. It's fun.
Working with Rigby, and it's wonderful. I was actually, an honour that I have is that I shot the first buffalo with the new big game rifle when they were relaunched. So I had one of the kind of pre-production models, and I got to take it. We were creating marketing assets, because at the time Rigby was just back, and there was not a lot of story around Rigby. It was just getting back on the scene, and we needed to go and show that Rigby was making guns again and that they were to be used, and these were guns that people should be taking to Africa. So we needed to create some storytelling and some photography and so on. So I was the lucky guy that went to go and hunted in the Claseri. Lovely old scrum cap.
Oh, so that was such a beautiful bull. Now, if you'd had a Dug-a-Boy Award at that moment, that would have been the winner that year.
It would. I entered that into the first Dug-a-Boy Award, and Mark also shot a very nice, very old bull when he was in Uganda. Early on in the sort of Rigby story for Mark and I together, and but we said that we weren't allowed to place within the Dug-a-Boy Awards. We just wanted to sort of include.
Well, you should have contested that.
Yeah. So listening to all of this, Rigby as a cartridge manufacturer, let alone firearms manufacturer, has had quite a consistent journey with you through your hunting career.
Oh my goodness, my entire hunting career, and some great experiences. Steve and Jason Hornady are such good friends, and they have been so instrumental in bringing back the old cartridges.
Very much so.
They created the first new 450-400, and obviously they make 416 Rigby and numerous others, and they also brought back John Rigby's original cartridge, the 453 1/4 Nitro Express, from 1898, and that's of course a rim cartridge for double rifle, and it happens to be my favorite double rifle cartridge. And Hornady has brought that back, and they make a fresh factory ammunition for it. So the 453 1/4 has come back a little bit. It and the 470 are identical ballistically. What I like about the Rigby cartridge, the 453 1/4, is that it's on a 450 base, whereas the 470 is on a 500 base.
Right.
So you need a little bit wider action, which means a little bit heavier gun. Ballistics are the same. It's a 480 grain bullet at 2150, and the 470 is a 500 grain bullet at 2150. That and 7 or 8 other British cartridges are ballistically identical, but I like the 453 1/4, and I've used it quite. I've actually taken most of my elephants with a 453 1/4 double.
Nice.
I admire it a lot, and one year, although he's a competitor to Hornady, but he's a dear friend, Bill Hover of Swift Bullets. And we, and Bill Hover makes a great bullet. But one year in Mozambique, I had a 416 Rigby, a new gun, and he had a 1920s original John Rigby 416 Rigby.
Wow.
And we both shot buffalo on the same day with those guns.
Wow. Yeah. Those pre-war big game rifles are very rare. And
hard to come by.
Hard to come by. Yeah. Well, in time, one of the things that people buy into the new Rigby rifles is that they're heirloom quality. They're something that in 100 years are going to be being handed down and will still be fit for purpose then.
It's still going to be a Rigby, and it's still going to be fit to go on safari.
Absolutely. And it will have knocks and bumps, and it will have been part of many, many good stories and campfire stories, and I guess that's what it's all about.
No, and I actually shot probably the most famous 416 Rigby of all, and that was Harry Selby's gun.
And wasn't that made on a standard Mauser action?
It was. They hogged it out, I guess, enough to get the cartridges in. Unusual gun.
Unusual, yeah. I mean, you would not want to put that through the proof house in London. Let's put it
Probably not.
Let's put it that way.
No, the story with Harry is that as a young hunter in Kenya, he started with a double rifle, and they were cheap then, and there was still ammo. As horrible as it sounds, he backed his truck over it. I don't think he was driving, but the driver actually backed the truck over his double rifle. Oh my God, we don't want to think about that. So it needed rather extensive repair. And so he went into bunduki is the Swahili word for gun. So he went into Kenya Bunduki, the gun shop in Nairobi, and bought that 416 Rigby off the rack, and used it for the rest of his career.
Loved it.
Loved it.
Yeah, I've read some stories with Roebuck when he hunted with Selby, and he talks about his 416 and the performance. And I mean, I don't think there's any other it's hard because there's lots of romance around a lot of the Rigby cartridges, but the 416, it needs no introduction. It has such there is a real romance to it, and I'm so happy that it's still so popular today. And I've spoken to many PHs the world over who hunt dangerous game, and and I often don't say who I work with, and I ask what their favourite cartridge is for dangerous game, and nearly every single one of them says a 416 Rigby. It's really interesting.
It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat.
It stood the test of time, and it's still doing.
And it had that extra large case, primarily because of the cordite powder they were using in that day. It needed expansion capability, and so they used it in larger cases than are the standard today because they were able to get the velocity at lower pressure.
Yeah.
And so that's still an advantage today, especially in Africa or India, where they were always working in hot country. Mm-hmm. Africa's not hot the whole year round, but India sure as heck is.
Humid, yeah.
And so that was the advantage to the big case, is they could get the velocity while keeping the pressure down relatively low. So although the 416 Rigby and the 416 Remington Magnum are ballistically identical, they're the same. 400 grain bullet at 2,400 feet per second. That was Remington's goal when they created that cartridge. So they're ballistically identical. But the Rigby still works at considerably lower pressure. Rarely a concern, but in really, really hot weather, and if you happen to make a mistake and leave your cartridges out in the sun for a little bit and the pressure goes up, I've never heard of a genuine problem with a 416 Remington. Yeah. But the Rigby does operate at lower pressure, and that is an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so don't buy a Remington, buy a Rigby.
There you go.
There we go.
Well, and there's, you guys are making them, and the big game rifle is not an inexpensive rifle, but it's an amazingly affordable rifle for the package that it is.
Yeah.
Single square bridge that's set up for iron sights, or double square bridge that's ready, willing, and able for scope use. It's just a beautiful rifle with all that cachet and tradition. I mean, I'll be honest. If people want the most inexpensive solution, 416 Rem or the new 416 Ruger is a great little cartridge.
I couldn't comment. I couldn't pass comment on that.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Ballistically, they're all the same. But if you
want the romance,
if you have any sense of history and tradition,
and you want to be part of our gang, then
no, the 416 Rigby is the famous cartridge, and today very, very available. Lots of ammunition out there, and you will find 416 Rigby ammunition in a lot of African camps.
Absolutely.
And you're not likely to find any of the others.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to this week and the 250th celebrations for Rigby, and this will probably go out after, and there's going to be lots of hoopla, and one of my jobs as head of communications for Rigby is to tell the story to the unlucky people that haven't been invited to come along, and we've got a certain number of people that are able to come. We're limited in capacity because of the venue that we're holding it in. Are you excited, Craig? Is it?
Oh my God, I am so excited. I was incredibly flattered when I got the invitation, and I didn't even think about it 2 minutes. I went and grabbed Donna and I said, honey, we better go to England.
Yeah.
We better go to England in May. I check the calendar real quick. Whatever's on there, better cancel it. I'm not going to miss this because I do have history with the cartridge and a lot of feeling for the cartridges and the rifles. And it goes back to when I was in grade school, for God's sake.
Well, and I have to say, and Donna's sitting over here, just behind the camera. You two have been, you've seen Rigby, Mark, myself in the business, over the last decade, working hard to bring back one of the grand old names. And I think we've done an okay job. And,
no, I think you've done it.
But you have been huge supporters and really, really backed us on so many occasions, and we're really grateful for that. It's been the hunting community, the professionals within the community. Obviously, the customers have bought into what's been going on with Rigby, but we're super grateful for the support that we've received from you.
Well, Rigby, when Rigby restarted in England and back where it belongs, when Rigby restarted in England, they brought in a very young crew, a new crew, not the. I mean, they all had background in the English gun trade,
Yep.
but they weren't guys my age from the state old English gun trade. They were younger people with new ideas and energy and enthusiasm.
Mark was 24.
I know.
He was 24.
I know, amazing.
Yeah,
and
which is, incredible to think.
and
really.
at my age, I had to think, oh man, can this kid do it? Well, he's done it.
He has done it.
He's done it. He's revitalized the name, and he's brought out just an incredible raft of no such thing as at the moment as a brand new Rigby rifle. It's still Mauser actions,
Yeah.
and they're still traditionally made double rifles. But he's brought enthusiasm, and he's brought assemblies. I mean, the actions are made in Germany. That's not a secret.
Yep.
But they are made by Mauser.
Yeah, which used to happen. So
Yeah, and that used to happen. So
history.
Basically, he just simply revitalized the partnership that existed before 1910.
Yep.
And brought that back with a lot of enthusiasm, and he brings his gun makers to the trade shows so that you can walk around Safari Club or Dallas, and you can actually see one of the craftsmen working on a stock, and you can see that the handwork that's going into the Rigby rifle that you purchase or that you order. It's amazing, and really, I mean, all the great old Rigby products are back. The Highland Stalker is reminiscent of the gun that Corbett was presented in, I believe, 1907.
Yep, and that's in the Rigby Museum.
And you have that rifle.
It's at the high altar of Rigby.
Yeah, you have that rifle, the rifle that was used to hunt the Rudraprayag leopard.
The Highland Stalker was the stock, the profile of the stock was very much inspired by that rifle.
Absolutely.
And you can see it when you put them
Yeah,
together.
absolutely, with the teardrop pistol grip and rounded pistol grip.
But it's been a really, really fun journey to be on, seeing how Rigby's been accepted back into the market. It's never gone away. It's been a brand that's been around for 250 years, but coming back to England, being backed as it has been by a German firearms manufacturing group that understand gun making and will back gun making activities. They're not trying to push the brand in any other direction. They've been able to allow Rigby to do what it does, which is make guns, and that is center stage. We've got some very exciting guests, including yourselves, visiting us for this amazing occasion. We've got some very exciting surprises in store for you this week.
Well, and the party itself, what vision. It's going to be held aboard the HMS Victory, and that's perhaps the most famous warship in the entire world. It was Admiral Horatio Nelson's flagship at the Battle of Trafalgar, which really changed the course of European history in a big way, and unfortunately he didn't survive the battle.
No, and it's an interesting story how we came about with the idea. So I mentioned this previously on a podcast, but Mark and I buddy up and share rooms at trade shows, because when we're jet lagged and we're awake in the middle of the night, it's actually quite nice to be productive. Sure. And we sit and we be creative and we come up with ideas for things. 3 years out from this week, we knew that there was a big thing we needed to come up with, and we were talking about it, and something that Mark and I as boys always considered. We shared the same dream. Lots of British people would probably, I hope, think the same. Wouldn't it be amazing to have dinner in Nelson's cabin one day? And so we've kind of adapted it and realised that perhaps some of Rigby's customers would like to have dinner in Nelson's cabin as well. And doing research, we knew that Victory was circa the same era of, its launch was the same era of Rigby, and we started peeling back the layers of the onion. The original John Rigby and Nelson were born in the same year.
That's amazing.
And it was the same year that the HMS Victory was ordered by the British Navy. And so there's so many echoes, and Victory's made out of timber and metal, which is what the gun makers use for making guns today. So there's craft skills that have been passed down generation by generation of gun maker on the bench, from Rigby gunsmith to Rigby gunsmith, from Paul Robertson, all those that came before him. And there are still skills that are being used today that were alive back then 250 years ago. HMS Victory is now a museum, still a commissioned warship, but you can go on board and it's a time capsule. It's stepping back in time to when Rigby was founded. So we felt it would be really fitting to try and build this really elaborate plan around inviting guests to come and have dinner on board HMS Victory. It's undergoing a restoration project for 10 years, so half of the ship is shut off, so that halved the number of people that could come. Luckily for us, positioned right next to it is HMS Warrior, which is a Victorian warship launched in 1860, which is a key moment in Rigby's history when it moved from Dublin to London.
That's amazing.
So then we're able to bring in the narrative around all of the amazing developments that happened from 1860 through to 1920. I guess there were still developments happening in that period, a real golden era for Rigby, and that seats 240 people, so we're able to invite 240 guests. So that was and we've added lots of pomp and ceremony to the whole thing, bands and cannons and all sorts of other things. So I think you're going to have a good night, Craig. I hope the food will be to your liking, and I'm just thrilled that you could come along. It's been
I'm just so proud to be here.
A little run-in with a bit of hunting before, and we're taking you. I've never known you as a fly fisher, but we're going to take you fly fishing tomorrow on the River Test.
I'll be the best observer you've ever seen.
I want to see you with a fishing rod in your hand. But Craig, it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much. It's going to be fun. We've got a great party, and Rigby has such a wonderful future ahead. You guys are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate it.